There are moments in life when the darkness feels closer than the light, when unseen battles weigh heavily on the soul, and fear whispers louder than faith. Yet hidden within the depths of your spirit is a force so powerful that even the forces of darkness tremble at its sound. This is not ordinary prayer. This is the kind of prayer that shakes the atmosphere, that pierces through spiritual resistance, that commands attention in realms we cannot see. When spoken with conviction, when declared with unwavering belief, this prayer becomes a weapon, a shield, and a source of divine authority. It is not about perfect words, but about the power behind them. The authority given to those who dare to stand firm in faith. Every syllable carries weight, every word releases light, and every moment spent in this prayer draws a line between fear and victory. You are not powerless in the face of spiritual opposition. You were never meant to be. There is a reason this prayer is feared, a reason it disrupts darkness and breaks chains that seemed unbreakable, a reason it awakens something deep within you that refuses to bow to fear. This prayer carries divine authority that disrupts darkness, reaching beyond the limits of human understanding and touching the very fabric of the spiritual realm. It is not merely a collection of spoken words, but a living declaration rooted in truth, backed by a power that does not originate from human strength. When this prayer is spoken with sincerity and faith, it activates a force that darkness cannot withstand. It confronts fear, breaks confusion, and exposes the lies that try to take hold of the mind and heart. There is a difference between speaking casually and declaring something with authority. This prayer operates in that authority, reminding every hidden force that there is a higher power at work. It shifts the atmosphere, bringing clarity where there was once chaos, and peace where anxiety once ruled. Even when circumstances seem unchanged, something begins to move in the unseen realm, aligning situations, opening paths, and weakening opposition that once felt overwhelming. Divine authority is not something earned through perfection, but something accessed through faith and alignment. When you pray with conviction, you step into a position that was always meant for you, standing firm in a truth that cannot be shaken by doubt or fear. Every word spoken in faith carries weight, and that weight presses against anything that seeks to oppose it. Darkness does not respond to noise, but it must respond to authority, and this prayer is filled with it. In moments of weakness, when the heart feels heavy and the mind is clouded, this prayer becomes a steady anchor. It reminds you that you are not alone, that there is a presence greater than any challenge you face. As the words flow, they begin to reshape your thoughts, lifting your perspective from fear to faith. What once seemed impossible begins to look different, not because the situation has changed instantly, but because the authority behind the prayer is already at work. This authority also brings boldness. It removes hesitation and replaces it with confidence rooted in something unshakable. You no longer speak from a place of uncertainty, but from a place of assurance, knowing that what you are declaring carries power beyond your own ability. It becomes a moment where heaven responds, where strength is released, and where the boundaries of fear begin to crumble. As this prayer continues to be spoken, it builds momentum, creating a consistent force that pushes back against anything that tries to rise against you. It becomes a daily act of standing firm, of refusing to surrender to fear, and of choosing to walk in a truth that remains constant regardless of circumstances. Each time it is declared, it reinforces a reality that darkness cannot overcome, establishing a presence that shifts everything it touches and prepares the ground for what is about to unfold. Faith-filled words release spiritual power beyond the visible realm, moving in ways that cannot always be seen but can always be felt. When words are spoken from a place of deep belief, they carry more than sound. They carry intention, conviction, and alignment with a higher truth. These words do not remain empty or powerless. They travel, they resonate, and they begin to influence the atmosphere around you, even when nothing outwardly appears to change at first. There is a profound difference between speaking out of habit and speaking with faith. Habit repeats, but faith activates. When faith is present, every word becomes intentional, every declaration becomes charged with purpose. It is in these moments that the invisible begins to respond. Obstacles that once felt immovable begin to weaken, and resistance that once felt constant begins to lose its grip. Faith does not deny reality, but it speaks into it, transforming it from the inside out. Words spoken in faith also have the power to reshape the inner world. They challenge doubt, silence fear, and replace uncertainty with clarity. As these words are repeated, they begin to take root, influencing thoughts, emotions, and actions. What once felt overwhelming becomes manageable, and what once seemed impossible begins to feel within reach. This is not because circumstances have instantly shifted, but because the power released through faith-filled words is already working beneath the surface. In the unseen realm, nothing spoken in true faith is wasted. Every declaration builds upon the last, creating a steady force that continues to grow stronger over time. It is like a ripple effect, where one moment of belief leads to another and eventually forms a wave that cannot be ignored. This wave moves through barriers, dismantles limitations, and creates openings where there were once none. Faith-filled words also establish alignment. They bring the heart, mind, and spirit into agreement with a greater purpose. When this alignment takes place, there is a sense of direction and confidence that replaces confusion. You begin to speak not just what you feel, but what you know to be true at a deeper level. This kind of speaking carries authority because it is rooted in conviction rather than circumstance. As this practice continues, it becomes a way of life. Speaking with faith is no longer something reserved for certain moments, but something that flows naturally in every situation. Whether facing challenges or experiencing peace, these words continue to release power, continuing to shape the path ahead and influence everything they encounter as they move forward into the next dimension of spiritual strength and understanding. Consistent prayer builds an unshakable spiritual defense, forming a steady barrier that strengthens over time and resists every attempt to break through. It is not a single moment of intensity that creates lasting protection, but a pattern, a rhythm, a daily return to connection that reinforces the spirit again and again. Each time you pray, something is added, something is reinforced, something is secured within you that cannot easily be undone. There's a quiet power in consistency. Even when emotions fluctuate and circumstances shift, the act of returning to prayer establishes stability. It becomes a place where strength is renewed, where clarity is restored, and where the noise of the world begins to fade. Over time, this repetition does more than comfort the heart. It builds endurance. It trains the spirit to remain steady even when everything around you feels uncertain. This kind of defense is not visible, yet its effects are undeniable. Situations that once caused panic begin to lose their power. Reactions that were once driven by fear are replaced with calm assurance. This is the result of something being built within, layer by layer, through consistent engagement with prayer. It is like a shield that becomes stronger with every use, more resilient with every challenge it faces. Consistency also creates awareness. The more you pray, the more sensitive you become to what is happening within and around you. You begin to recognize the difference between peace and disturbance, truth and deception, strength and weakness. This awareness allows you to respond with intention rather than react out of fear. It gives you the ability to stand firm, not because everything is easy, but because you are prepared. In moments when you feel weary or distracted, consistency becomes even more important. These are the times when skipping prayer might seem easier, yet they are also the times when prayer matters most. Returning again, even when it feels difficult, reinforces the defense you are building. It reminds your spirit that this connection is not based on convenience, but on commitment. As this habit deepens, it transforms your identity. Prayer is no longer something you do occasionally. It becomes part of who you are. This identity carries strength with it, a quiet confidence that does not need to prove itself. You begin to move differently, speak differently, and face challenges with a grounded sense of purpose. Over time, this consistent practice creates a foundation that cannot easily be shaken. It anchors you in something greater than temporary circumstances, something that remains steady regardless of what you face. Each prayer adds to this foundation, reinforcing the defense that surrounds you and preparing you to stand firm as the next challenge begins to rise and test the strength that has been built within you. Fear loses its grip when truth is boldly declared, because fear thrives in silence, uncertainty, and distortion. It grows strongest when left unchallenged, when it whispers unchecked and slowly shapes perception. But the moment truth is spoken with conviction, something shifts. The atmosphere changes, the mind begins to clear, and what once felt overwhelming starts to lose its authority. Truth has a way of exposing what fear tries to hide, bringing light into places that once seemed consumed by darkness. When truth is declared, it confronts every lie that fear has built. It speaks directly against doubt, against insecurity, against every voice that says you are not strong enough, not capable enough, or not worthy enough. These declarations are not empty affirmations. They are rooted in a deeper reality that remains constant regardless of circumstances. As they are spoken, they begin to break down the structures that fear has created, weakening its influence piece by piece. Fear often feels powerful because it convinces you that it is based on reality. It magnifies problems, exaggerates risks, and creates a sense of urgency that pushes you into reaction rather than reflection. But truth brings perspective. It reminds you of what is real, what is lasting, and what cannot be shaken. When you speak truth, you interrupt the cycle of fear and replace it with clarity. You begin to see beyond the immediate situation and recognize that fear does not define the outcome. There is also a strengthening that happens within when truth is consistently declared. The more you speak it, the more it becomes internalized. It moves from being something you say to something you believe, and eventually something you embody. This transformation shifts your posture, allowing you to stand firm even when fear tries to rise again. Instead of being controlled by emotion, you begin to operate from a place of assurance that remains steady. Bold declaration requires courage, especially in moments when fear feels strongest. It means choosing to speak what is true even when your emotions are telling you something different. It means standing in confidence even when you do not yet see the full picture. This act of boldness is not about denying difficulty, but about refusing to give fear the final word. Each time you declare truth, you reclaim ground that fear tried to take. As this practice continues, fear begins to lose its familiar place in your life. It no longer dictates your decisions or shapes your responses in the same way. Instead, it becomes something you recognize and confront immediately. Truth rises faster, speaks louder, and carries more weight. What once felt paralyzing becomes manageable, and what once held you back begins to release its hold as you step forward with renewed confidence and prepare to face what comes next. Spiritual battles are won through obedience and unwavering belief, not through force, noise, or human effort alone, but through a quiet alignment with a higher will that cannot be shaken. Obedience is often misunderstood as weakness, yet it is one of the greatest sources of strength. It requires trust, discipline, and the willingness to act even when the outcome is not immediately visible. In the midst of struggle, obedience becomes a guiding force, keeping you grounded when everything around you feels uncertain. Unwavering belief works hand in hand with obedience, creating a foundation that remains steady regardless of circumstances. Belief is not simply a feeling. It is a decision to stand firm in truth even when doubt tries to take hold. It is choosing to trust in what cannot yet be seen, to hold on to what is promised even when reality seems to contradict it. This kind of belief does not fluctuate with emotions or situations. It remains constant, providing strength when everything else feels unstable. When obedience and belief come together, they create a powerful response to spiritual opposition. Instead of reacting impulsively or giving in to fear, you begin to move with intention. Every step becomes purposeful, every action aligned with something greater than the moment. This alignment disrupts confusion and replaces it with clarity. It gives direction in times of uncertainty and strengthens your resolve when challenges arise. There are moments when obedience will feel difficult, when it requires you to let go of control or step into something unfamiliar. In these moments, belief becomes the anchor that keeps you steady. It reminds you why you are choosing this path, why you are standing firm even when it is not easy. Together, they create resilience, allowing you to continue moving forward without being shaken by temporary setbacks. This process also reshapes the way you respond to challenges. Instead of seeing obstacles as barriers, you begin to see them as opportunities to deepen your trust and strengthen your faith. Each challenge becomes a chance to practice obedience and reinforce belief, building a pattern that grows stronger over time. This pattern forms a rhythm, a consistent way of responding that becomes second nature. As this rhythm develops, it changes your perspective. You no longer feel overwhelmed by every difficulty or distracted by every opposing force. Instead, there is a sense of calm determination that guides your actions. You know that your strength does not come from controlling every outcome, but from remaining aligned and steadfast. Over time, this combination of obedience and unwavering belief creates a powerful momentum. It moves you forward with confidence, strengthens your inner resolve, and establishes a presence that cannot easily be shaken as you continue to press forward into the next stage of spiritual growth and deeper understanding. The presence of God transforms weakness into unstoppable strength, reaching into the deepest places of the human soul where limitations, doubts, and insecurities often reside. What feels fragile and uncertain in your own ability becomes fortified when touched by something far greater than yourself. This transformation does not always happen in an instant, but it begins the moment you become aware of that presence and choose to lean into it rather than rely solely on your own understanding. Weakness often carries a heavy weight. It whispers that you are not enough, that you cannot overcome what stands before you, that your strength has limits that cannot be pushed any further. Yet, in the presence of God, those limitations begin to lose their authority. What once defined you no longer holds the same power. Instead, you begin to draw from a source that is not bound by human restriction, a source that continues to give even when you feel empty. There is a quiet exchange that takes place in this presence. Your fear is replaced with courage, your doubt with clarity, your exhaustion with renewed energy. It is not that challenges disappear, but that you are no longer facing them from a place of weakness. You are strengthened from within, anchored in something that does not shift with circumstances. This inner strength begins to shape the way you think, the way you respond, and the way you move forward. As you remain connected to this presence, you begin to recognize that strength is not about never feeling weak, but about knowing where to turn when weakness arises. It becomes a continual process of returning, of reconnecting, of allowing that strength to flow into every area of your life. Each moment spent in that connection reinforces your ability to stand firm, even when everything around you feels uncertain. This transformation also builds confidence that is not dependent on external validation. It is a confidence rooted in identity, in knowing that you are supported, guided, and empowered beyond what you can see. This kind of confidence does not need to prove itself. It simply exists, steady and unwavering, even in the face of opposition. Over time, this strength becomes evident not only within you, but through you. It influences your actions, your decisions, and your interactions with others. It becomes a light that shines even in difficult moments, a steady force that continues to move forward regardless of resistance. What once felt like weakness becomes a testimony of transformation, a reminder that true strength is not something you create on your own, but something you receive and carry as you continue walking forward into greater purpose and deeper spiritual awareness. There is a power available to you that goes far beyond what your eyes can see or your mind can fully comprehend. Through prayer filled with faith, consistency, truth, obedience, and unwavering belief, you step into a spiritual authority that darkness cannot withstand. Every moment you choose to stand firm, every word you declare with conviction, and every time you return to that place of connection, you are strengthening something within you that cannot be easily shaken. This journey is not about perfection, but about persistence. It is about rising again and again, choosing faith over fear, truth over doubt, and strength over weakness. The battles you face are real, but so is the power that equips you to overcome them. You are not alone, and you are never meant to fight from a place of defeat. As you continue to walk in this understanding, something begins to change within you. You become more aware, more grounded, and more confident in the authority you carry. What once intimidated you begins to lose its hold, and what once felt impossible begins to open before you. This prayer is not just words. It is a living force that moves, transforms, and empowers, guiding you forward with a strength that continues to grow with every step you take.